Okay, so the mouth has the teeth, the tongue, and the salivary glands, with lips, cheeks as well. The mechanical digestion is by the teeth, by chewing and breaking down the food into smaller pieces. The glands break down polysaccharides into disaccharides. The food is mixed with saliva and formed into boltos for swallowing. Primary food molecules digested are carbohydrates, and this is both mechanical and chemical. Through the mouth, we travel through to the esophagus, which is a 25 centimeter muscular tube connecting the mouth to the stomach. Food moves from the mouth to the stomach through wave-like muscle contractions. The lower esophagus sphincter prevents stomach acid coming up. There's no primary food molecules digested, there's no enzymes, and there is no type of digestion, so no chemical and no mechanical.
After the food flows through the esophagus, it reaches the stomach. The stomach is sort of like a J-shaped structure in the body. It has mechanical digestion as the stomach walls, the muscular walls in the stomach, mix and churn the food particles with the gastric juices in the stomach to produce chyme. After that, it goes through chemical digestion. This is done as the food particles, mainly the proteins, the amino acids, they react with the hydrochloric acid, which will kill all the bacteria that is in the proteins. And the proteins also react with the enzymes that is created in the stomach called pepsin, and pepsin breaks down each of the proteins into peptides. The primary food molecule that is digested in the stomach are proteins, as they go from proteins into peptides. And it is both mechanical and chemical, as the mechanical digestion is when the stomach muscular walls in the stomach mix and break down the food physically, and then the chemical digestion is where the the proteins react with the hydrochloric acid and pepsin to create peptides. After the food is being processed and digested through the stomach, next up it enters the small intestine. The small intestine has three main sections. The duodenum. The duodenum is the primary site of digestion. Next up after that is the jejunum. This is where all the nutrients are being absorbed. And then lastly we have the ileum. That's where all of the final absorption of whatever is being done is done before it has to enter the large intestine. There's two functions of the small intestine. The first one is to chemically digest carbohydrates, proteins that are left over, and lipids. This is done by the bile and other enzymes that are produced in the small intestine. The second function of the small intestine is that it, as I said before with the jejunum, it absorbs a lot of nutrients, and this is done by villi and microvilli. In the small intestines, the enzymes that are produced are amylase. Amylase are what switch starch or carbohydrates into maltose. We have the trypsin, which is used to further digest the proteins and peptides that come from the stomach into the small intestine. After that, we have the lipase. The lipase are used to break down triglycerides into glycerol and fatty acids. After that, just the main enzymes that are intestinal enzymes that are produced in the small intestine are maltase, sucrase, lactase. And those are used to convert disaccharides into monosaccharides. The primary foods that are digested in the small intestine are your proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids or fats. however you like to call them. And the digestion that is done, or the type of digestion, is chemical digestion.
After the small intestine goes into the large intestine, which is about a 1.5 meter long, consisting of the cecum, ascending, descending, and the transverse, and the rectum and the anus. The functions: it absorbs water, minerals, and vitamins. The rectum collects undigested waste and bacteria and removes waste through the rectum and the anus. There's no digestion happening in the large intestine. Okay, next is an accessory organ, which is the liver, and it is the largest internal organ. It produces bile, which helps break down fats. It detoxifies substances such as blood, alcohol, and toxins. It manufactures proteins, and the primary food molecules processed are lipids and fats.
The next accessory organ is the pancreas. The pancreas is a thin gland which is located behind the stomach. As you can see, it's that tiny little yellow colored portion. The pancreas has two functions. The first function is that it secretes digestive enzymes and sodium bicarbonate into the small intestine. And the second function is that it produces insulin and glucagon, and those help with regulating blood sugar levels in the human body.
The last accessory organ is the gallbladder, which is a small sac beneath the liver. It stores and releases bile for fat digestion. The primary food molecules digested are fats and lipids, and there's no type of digestion with the gallbladder.
This is a biological molecule of a amino acid, and multiple amino acids make up a protein. For example, proteins could be chicken, beef, pork, tofu, or fish. It starts off in the mouth as the teeth chew it down and sort of break it apart. And then it follows down into the esophagus. It has no digestion through here. And then it enters the stomach. And in the stomach, it goes through mechanical digestion first as the stomach muscles churn the amino acids around. After that, it reacts and digests with the hydrochloric acid and the pepsin that is created from the stomach, which then breaks apart each amino acid molecule into peptides. After the protein is broken into peptides, they go through further digestion in the pancreas, which is right there, and it also is digested a little more in the small intestine with other enzymes that are produced in the pancreas and small intestine. So this is a biological molecule of a nucleotide. We're just going to go through how it gets digested. It first goes through mechanical digestion in the mouth as the teeth physically break down the molecules, and then it doesn't go through any other digestion through the esophagus or the stomach until it reaches the small intestine, where the small intestine creates an enzyme called nucleotidase, which reacts with the nucleotide in general, and then it breaks the nucleotide into a nucleoside and then phosphates. After it is broken down into a nucleoside and phosphate, the nucleosides are broken down even more with an enzyme called nucleosidase, and that enzyme will break the nucleoside into a nitrogenous base, which is this part over here, and then sugars.
Okay, this is a carbohydrate of glucose. Starts in the mouth and it gets broken down into smaller pieces, and then the salivary amylase breaks down the carbohydrates into simpler sugars, including glucose, and it travels down the esophagus, into the stomach, and into the small intestine, where glucose is absorbed through the walls of the small intestine, mainly from the duodenum and the jejunum. Villi in the small intestine helps increase the surface area for absorption.